Sister Stephanie Baliga is a sister with the Franciscans of the Eucharist of Chicago, located at the Mission of Our Lady of the Angels. She was an NCAA Division I athlete for the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, where she was the 6th freshman at the 2006 NCAA Cross-Country Championships and part of the 2007 team that placed 6th in the NCAA. She is originally from Rockford, Illinois. Without further ado, please welcome me and join Sister Stephanie.
Thank you very much. It's really an honor to be here. I'm really grateful for the invitation and honored to be here. So I'm here to talk about how we can all be Christian athletes. So you do not have to have any physical skill to be able to accomplish this task. And I'm going to help you see how that's possible by using various analogies from athletics to help us to understand our Christian life better. Can people hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, cool. Awesome. So I'm going to start by giving you a little bit of introduction about me so you can understand kind of where I'm coming from and where I'm drawing my insights from when I talk about these analogies between athletics and faith, and to help you to be able to get background on where it's coming from. So here we go. As it was said in the little intro thing, I'm from Rockford, Illinois, and I started running when I was 9 years old. Ended up going, obviously I went to high school. I won 19 conference championships in high school, and ended up getting recruited to run for University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, as mentioned, which I was very blessed to be able to do that. And I was, as mentioned, 6th freshman in the nation, and my team placed 6th my sophomore year in college. During mostly the end of my high school career and the beginning of my college career, my entire life revolved around running. Everything I did was aimed towards trying to get myself to be a faster runner. Eating, sleeping, the amount that I hung out with my friends, the amount I didn't hang out with my friends, what I did for school, everything was kind of revolving around how could I make myself just a little bit faster by changing different things in my life to make that possible. I was essentially obsessed with running, which is not healthy. So, God made this very clear to me my sophomore year during track season. I was running like 70 miles a week because I ran the 10K in track, so you gotta run a lot to train for 10K. So I was running a lot. And I was just on a regular training run when all of a sudden my second metatarsal of my foot broke in half. So I was just running, and went from being in the best shape of my life to in a boot and on crutches in like 5 minutes. It was a huge transition, obviously, and it really hit me very hard. People are like, oh my gosh, you broke your foot. This is not that big of a deal. But for me, this was like the world ending at that time. And so I was forced to reevaluate my life, because not only was I angry and depressed, but I felt like my life had no meaning. So I was forced to kind of look out myself and to look towards something else besides that which I knew to base my life in, which was running. So I ended up getting more involved with the Newman Center on campus at U of I. We've got some U of I over here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Anyway, so our Newman Center is awesome. So I was more involved. Started getting more involved there. I ended up going on a retreat where I had a really powerful experience in front of the Eucharist. I was just off crutches, still in a boot. My foot was still a mess, and I was still a mess. and so I was sitting there praying, and I had this intense experience of that. I really knew that Jesus was really there in the Eucharist, body, blood, soul, and divinity, for the first time ever. Like, you hear this. I was brought up like with some catechesis, not that much, but I kind of was. I knew this in theory, but then it became very real to me during that evening. And I also had the beginnings of the calling to discern religious life at that time as well. So it's kind of like bang, 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 a lot of stuff really fast. And so, so I went back from this retreat, and I started to reevaluate and change some things in my life around, and eventually ended up starting to actively discern religious life after I started to establish a regular prayer life and a more regular faith life that I did not have before. So, but then in my discernment, there was this constant theme. Like every time I visited a community, it was kind of like, well, how can I run? And where can I run? And how is this going to work? And I was still like attached to running. It was still kind of like my thing, and I couldn't really totally let it go until partially through my discernment when I was discerning with a community where I would never be able to run if I had joined this community. And I would have had to totally give it up, period. And at that time I told God, I'm like, all right, I will give up running if this is really what you want me to do. And ever since then, after I kind of like slowly surrendered running to God, God has been giving me running back abundantly in ways that I never would have expected. And He's really showed me how I can use running to glorify God and to bring awareness to the good works of the church. Excuse me, and things like that. So it has been an amazing journey back. And I'll talk about this later, but we have marathon teams that help raise money for what we're doing at the mission, which I know a lot of you are familiar with. And I've been really blessed. I ran a 3:05 marathon last year, and stuff like that. So I've been able to train and be able to still be active in an appropriate, balanced way, which is always the challenge for me to keep it like that. But anyway, so anyway, that's my story. So long-time athlete, short-time Christian. Here we are. As I stated, my athletic background has led me to make many parallels between athletics and the Christian life. Cool. Thank God. St. Paul also thinks so. Thank God. So Paul uses much athletic imagery in his letters. When I was doing some research for this talk, I came upon a scripture scholar who said, when you're looking for Paul's athletic imagery in his letters, to look for the word crown, or the prize won by the athletes in the game, which is best exemplified by 1 Corinthians 9:24 through 27. And this is the scripture quote. Do you not know that the runners in the stadium all run in the race, but only one wins the prize? Run so as to win. Every athlete exercises discipline in every way. They do it to win a perishable crown, but we an imperishable one. Thus I do not run aimlessly. I do not fight as if I were shadowboxing. No, I drive my body and train it, for fear that, after having preached to others, I myself should be disqualified. So St. Paul is drawing parallels between the athlete's crown and the martyr's crown, as you can tell. And in another passage that St. Paul uses is from 2 Timothy. Here's that quote. It's, "For I am already being poured out like a libation, and the time of my departure is at hand. I have competed well, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. From now on, the crown of righteousness awaits me, which the Lord, the just judge, will award me on that day, and not only to me, but to all who have longed for His appearance." Okay, so we have scripture bagging. So we are all Christian athletes. The amazing thing about this metaphor, at least for me, is that it's easy for me to understand compared to other parables and other symbols used in the New Testament. Okay, so I have like shepherds and wineskins and bushel baskets. Some of this is kind of like hard for me sometimes. So I really enjoy the athletic imagery because I can still tangibly participate, or anybody can participate vicariously through watching sports on TV, even if you don't participate in sports, in the athletics here and now. Unlike It'd be very difficult. I would have to put a ton of effort into trying to become a shepherd to understand me. So, I think this is very applicable to our lives. But before I talk more about this metaphor, I want to do a little backup here. That we're going to define, if I'm going to say that athletics define the Christian life, I think I want everybody to be on the same page of what the Christian life is. So we're going to do a little intro on that here. So, I'm going to be defining the Christian life through this talk as, with God's grace, the Christian life is the process of constant conversion or rooting out sin, and the replacement of the old self with the new self, or the dying to the old self. Per St. Paul in Ephesians 4, this is the quote, that you should put away the old self of your former way of life, corrupted through deceitful desires, and be renewed in the spirit of your minds. And put on the new self, created in God's way, in righteousness and holiness of truth. In other words, the Christian life is conformity with Christ by carrying our crosses, or freely participating vicariously in Christ's passion, and living as a perfect imitation of Christ as we possibly can. And Jesus has promised us that those who have faith and those who walk with Christ will possess peace and ultimate fulfillment. As in the scripture, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one will come to the Father except through me. Or St. Irenaeus' quote, which I love, the glory of God is man fully alive, and the life of man consists in beholding God. So, the Christian life is the process of realizing our full potential while keeping our eyes fixed on God. Okay, so all of that stuff together is the Christian journey, or the Christian life. And so that's what I'm going to refer to it from now on in talk. Okay, so here we are. Who is the Christian athlete? And why is it helping us understand the Christian life? This is audience participation time. Okay, so what characteristics do most excellent athletes have?
Endurance.
Endurance. Thank you.
Training.
I'm sorry?
Training.
Drive, great. Y'all know. Focus, very good. Discipline. Goals. Perseverance.
Passion.
Excellent. This is pretty much those going.
Natural ability.
The ones I'm going to talk about specifically are, which we're mostly saying, perseverance, strength, focus, specialized skills, awareness, and long-term outlook with short-term goals. All of these skills that I just mentioned and that were said are essential to the Christian journey. So we're going to take time to look at this one. So first, perseverance. Okay. This is necessary for athletes. I'm kind of going to go back and forth. Athletes, Christian life for each one. So you'll see how this goes. Athletes, it's necessary for all athletes, even for sprinters, whose entire event is like 15 seconds long, to have a perseverance to get to the starting line, or get to the beginning of the game, and to get through the event with success. So the key to success with perseverance is constant, regular, positive effort. That's how I've defined persistence. Constant, regular, positive effort. So my example from my athletic life that I want to share with you is that when I was in college at UVI, I was super blessed to be able to be on my team with a 3-time national champion. Her name was Angela Bizzari. She's now a professional athlete. She signed a contract with Brooks upon our graduation from college. So she's amazing. And she, the thing about Angela is that she really shouldn't be that good. It's because she's because of her persistence in a way that people don't totally get. So when we were freshmen, when I was faster, she was that like the slowest she was whenever she was in her college career. She was always struggling with these like little tiny injuries, and she spent so much time in the training room. So the where you go to like work on your injuries and try to figure out, do like specific strength exercises like physical therapy and stuff. And that she was so consistent in this that she would always manage to keep herself healthy to continue to train. So she was never seriously injured throughout her entire college career. And she was so good at doing the little things that made her good that she eventually kind of removed all these small injury problems that she had and ended up being a 3-time national champion. She's always the person I think of, and the way that she ran the races, she would always like do these ridiculous surges in the middle of the race. Like it was like total like killer perseverance. It was amazing. So anyway, that's Angela. She's the perfect perseverance in my mind. And so for Christians, we also need persistence, constant, regular, positive effort in what I'm going to highlight in our prayer lives and our lives of growing in virtue. The results that we receive from our perseverance in our prayer life or from our life of Christian life of growing in virtue are sometimes less tangible than the results that are gained from athletic training. But remember, because we're going for the imperishable crown, not the perishable one, so that our results may not be as tangible. So, example of being persistent and consistent in praying every day and to be working on a certain sin that you're struggling in your life or something of that nature. So, cool. So that's perseverance. Constant, regular, positive effort. So the second one I'm going to talk about is stamina or strength. So athletes need to be physically strong to maintain form or performance in their sport, and they need to be mentally strong to confront the opposing team and to keep up when the going gets tough. So to be able to get through the hard times. That's the definition of strength that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to use myself as an example here because of when I was in high school, I was the only distance runner on my team in high school, pretty much. And so this meant that I did my own distance workouts, but I also lifted weights with the sprinters. So I got to be, which sprinters lift a lot more than distance runners and do a lot more strength work than distance runners. So I ended up being really strong for a distance runner. And I also spent time doing hills and doing some other weights in college that other people chose not to do, because I do have one of the reasons that I am talented is because I'm so strong. And this really paid off in the race that was mentioned at the beginning of the thing when I was sixth freshman in the nation. It's the only reason that happened. That really shouldn't happen either. Was because the course was like a mud pit. So I was able to run, like I was able to kind of truck through this mud like better than people that were realistically and most other days would have been faster than me. And I was able to really move through the crowd and be able to maneuver the mud better than the people. So that was a blessing for sure. It was cool. And so the example for Christians, when the cross seems really heavy or when there's unforeseen obstacles, we need to be able to fall back on our training or our strong faith that's built up through our consistent efforts and our ability to get through the hard times. So, the trust and the relationship that we build with God is the foundation of our lives. And just like strong athletes need to have a good base, and athletes that really have stamina, their key is usually the fact that they have a really strong base and did a lot of that base training that a lot of people try to skip. Everybody would like to skip because it's boring and it takes a long time. But that's what a good Christian faith is built on, that really strong base that we put, that we base our prayer life and our life of growing in virtue on. So that when things get really difficult, like you lose your job or someone passes away tragically, you're able to fall back on your foundation of faith. Just like athletes are able to fall back on their really strong athletic bases when things in a race or in a game get really difficult, or when there's unforeseen conditions like mud or something like that. So, like the parable building a house on rock or building a house on sand, as people are familiar with from the Gospels. Okay, cool. So strength, getting through the hard times. Okay, the next one I'm going to talk about is focus. Athletes can get really distracted. by new fads in training, less important competitions, peaking too early, and things like that. So I'm also going to use myself as an example of this, because my senior year in high school, I was a focused disaster. I was taking really bad. So I trained really hard, way too hard over the summer, and I was focused on these like little tiny races in the beginning of cross country that were not important, which I did well at, but then I totally crashed and burned at the end of the season because I was not focused on the end race, state, and the races that really actually mattered. I was distracted by all of these little less important things. So Christians can also get distracted very easily, both distracted in a way like being distracted in prayer, like actually, and then also being distracted in the way that we practice our faith. As we discussed in the goal of the Christian life, our main goal is conformity to Christ. An example that I like to use, because I've definitely fallen into this, is that people get distracted by too many devotions, so we're supposed to be focused on growing in our relationship with Christ, but we get very distracted by lots and lots and lots of novenas, lots of extra different things that are distracting us from the main focus of being focused on Christ and our faith. Not that some of that, obviously having a devotional life is really important, but that it's balanced within the context of the sacraments and balanced like with prayer and growing in virtue. So that's focus. The fourth one that I want to talk about is honed specialized skills, also known as paying attention to the little things. Okay. So athletes, each sport requires a specialized skill to be successful. And to get these skills requires extensive practice and concentration. So when I was like in middle school and early high school, when I used to run, I used to squeeze my hand like this, and this would end up cramping my entire body. So when I was running, I ended up kind of like leaning like on the side. I was like, it was terrible. And so then it looked weird, but it also like totally slowed me down a ton. And I never sprint at the end of races, and I could never have good surges in the middle of the races because I was always like cramped over. So my coach was like, we gotta do something about this. This is not working out. So what he ended up doing was, I ended up getting like a foam ball, like one of those foam balls you use when you give blood. And I held this thing in my hand whenever I ran, which was really funny. But then, and it prevented me from squeezing my hand so that I wouldn't cramp up down the side. And I also paired it with doing weight work and things to strengthen my left side, which was weaker than my right side. But this took like years to totally fix. And sometimes now that I'm running is definitely not the focus of my life right now, and I don't really lift weights, I can feel sometimes it's like coming back, and I'm like, oh. And so it's kind of like you need to keep up and continue to work on these skills over time as well, both for athletes and for Christians. So Christians need to recognize areas in their lives that they struggle with the most and need the most refinement, and see where you need to hone your skills, just like a good athlete needs to see the areas in their life where they need to hone their skills. Another example from athletics, which helps to illustrate this, is that say you're a basketball player and you are awesome at jump shots. You love jump shots. You can practice jump shots all day because you love doing it and you're good at it. But you're terrible at free throws. And you never practice free throws because you're bad at them, and they're no fun to practice because you're terrible at them. So it's also like this temptation as Christians to want to be able to okay, I'm really good at I love doing service, but I don't really like praying. Or vice versa, I love praying, I don't like to do service. So I just kind of leave the other one to the side, or like I don't keep it balanced within my life because I like doing one or the other better, and they're all good things, right? Because they are all good things. But to be able to balance the areas and see the areas where you need the most skills and recognize that you need to work on them. So of course, examples of areas, obviously there's tons of different things that Christians could potentially be struggling with. Concentrating during prayer, concentrating during Mass, being frustrated with other people. The list goes on and on. Obviously, through prayer and the sacraments, that you can be able to figure out where everybody has their own skills that they need to work on. Definitely me included. Okay, so that was specialized skills. Okay, the last one of this part that I'm going to talk about is being aware of your surroundings. Okay, so athletes, good athletes, put themselves in a position where they're able to make the right choices even about little things, like sleeping and eating, and other things like this. So I was also very blessed in college to have a coach. Her name is Tanja, and she was a bronze medalist in the 1996 Olympics in the 400-meter hurdles. She was an amazing athlete, and she, every single season, she told us this story, it was like drilled in your head, about how she was in college, and she was good, she was pretty good, like she was really good. She made it to nationals and things, but she would never, like, was able to win nationals. So she always told a story about how she'd always get, like, not make it to finals at nationals or anything like this. But then her, like, junior year, she decided that she was going to change her diet. She was going to stop eating, like, fried food. She was going to stop eating all this junk that she had been eating. She didn't really care about her diet. And it completely changed her running. So much so that she started winning nationals and ended up going to the Olympics, just because of changing these little things around in her life. And that's because she put herself in a position where she was able to make those good decisions. She put herself in a surrounding around people who were able to help her to make good choices about her diet and about her lifestyle, which is the same for Christians. So when we try to put ourselves in positions where we're able to make the right choices, even about things that seem little. So watching bad TV shows, listening to bad music, or putting yourself in a position where you're hanging around people that don't necessarily help you make good choices, are all things that in the context may seem little, but that we need to be able to recognize where that fits in with our growth in the Christian life. Cool. Oh, there's one more. Sorry, I forgot about goals. How can I forget about goals? This is the last. This is the last one. So long-term outlook with short-term goals. So athletes always need to have the end goal in mind. NCAA is at the end of the year, the state championship at the end of the year. But there always needs to be small goals in the middle to be able to help us to see where we're at, or other events or games where we can test how our training is going. And so in Division I cross country, we have this concept called pre-nationals, so nationals is the week of Thanksgiving, but always in like the middle of October. Everybody would get together. Everybody who thought they would qualify for nationals got together at the nationals course and ran on the nationals course. Everybody would stay in the same hotel. They planned on staying at nationals, eating the same thing, and like kind of doing an exact replication of what they thought nationals was going to be like. To be able to test where they're at, to get an accurate assessment of where they're at in their training and in their movement towards nationals itself. So Christians, we also need to have short-term goals on the progress towards our long-term goal. What's our long-term goal? Everyone's got the same long-term goal. Heaven. Yay. So good. So we're all on the same page. We all have the same long-term goal. And but we all need to have short-term goals where we're able to evaluate ourselves. That's kind of like big, abstract, and it's difficult, at least I find it difficult to be able to focus on growing in virtue of like, okay, heaven, and like, okay, I need to narrow this down a little bit. So I'm not getting anywhere with moving towards growing in virtue or improving my life without some shorter-term goals. So all of us could have different short-term goals. Praying 15 minutes every day for the next 3 weeks, that's a great short-term goal. Or anything like that would help you just be able to, that's something that's tangible, that you're able to help you move towards the ultimate goal of going to heaven. Okay, cool. So now we're going to the ultimate question, I guess. Ultimate question number 1. We're going to have 2 ultimate questions. Are there Christians who have Christians who actually are successful Christian athletes? And what are our professional Christian athletes called? Does anyone have a guess? Saints. Great, perfect. Okay, so to stretch this analogy to its ultimate ridiculous conclusion, we could want to call these saints the Hall of Fame members, but they're really not, because they're still active in our lives and they're still interceding for us. So Thank God they're still with us. So let me give you an example of two exceptional Christian athletes. I picked one that's more directly related to tonight and one that's less clearly related to try to help everybody see the whole spectrum of saints and Christian athletes. So first one is Blessed Kira Luce. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with her. She was, at the age of 16, she was diagnosed with an incurable form of cancer, and her life was dominated by weakness and sickness. But she was a better Christian athlete than pretty much anybody. A quote that she said, referring to her sickness, was, "It's for you, Jesus. If you want it, I want it too." And Kira refused to take morphine to stay awake while she was sick. And she wanted to know her illness and her pain so she could offer up her sufferings. And one of her doctors said that through her smile and through her eyes full of life, she showed us that death doesn't exist and that only life exists. So, I mean, that's some big-time perseverance, focus, and strength in my book. So, the second excellent Christian athlete was also an excellent physical athlete. So this is Blessed Pure Giorgio Frassati. He loved the poor and loved the mountains and loved the outdoors and also loved God. He had a very deep prayer life, and he gave everything that he could to the poor, even his shirt off of his back, literally, while he was also fighting fascism in Italy and climbing mountains like every day. So his quote was, "Towards the top." It's a short phrase which synthesized his way of life, always seeking what enhances and that which carries us beyond ourselves, and towards the best that we can be as people, and towards the best that we can be ourselves. It was to strive towards perfection of life and towards sainthood. And it was our means to strive towards our source of life, towards God. And he also died at a young age as well. Okay, so that was ultimate question one. Saints, Christian athletes, amazing. So so the second one is that I've been using lots of examples of individual sports because I'm a runner and it's easier for me to relate to. And it's simpler to explain, both because it's from my experience and because it's only one person. But what about team sports? How can we apply what we just learned to sports teams? Okay, so good sports teams obviously have members who are working towards developing the skills that we've been talking about so far in the talk. Okay, but good sports teams are only as good as their weakest link. So to be really trite, teamwork makes the dream work. Good teammates make each other better. In so much that I think that sports teams beautifully illustrate three really important concepts of our faith. First, on a small scale, I think that sports teams illustrate two of the central tenets of Catholic social teaching, which I'm not going to get too distracted by Catholic social teaching. It's not the main point of this talk, but I will talk about these two points. So first, solidarity. Solidarity is a firm and persevering determination to commit oneself to the common good, which can almost be an alternative definition of teamwork. It's to be able to focus your goal on the good of the team. So good teams are great examples of how people should work together to promote the common good. For a team, the common good is winning the game. And which is what makes this such a good illustration, at least that I think, is that the common good is so tangible and so obvious. With winning is the common good is easy to understand. Better than the common good in the Christian life, it's more difficult to pin down what exactly that looks like. So the athletic example that I wanted to use is that, so in track is that weird dichotomy of being an individual sport but also being a team sport. And the dynamics on track teams are always very interesting because of this. And so in college, Big Ten, so the conference meet at U of I, was always like the only meet of the year that we would actually act as a team. Every other meet was kind of like all these like individual people kind of doing their own thing that happened to be traveling on a bus together. But Big Ten, we really were working as a team, and it totally showed in our performance. And it was because of the solidarity and this focus on the common good of winning the meet. And because it was so much more cheering for each other, like active support of one another in each other's events, and things like that, versus just a regular meet where people would be kind of paying attention to everybody else, but so focused on their own event that they'd be kind of in their own world. This is obviously for the Christian life, that we're all working together as Christians to be able to promote the common good of all, which is relatively clear, but it's fun. It's good to be able to draw from some of the lessons gained from looking at teams there. Okay, so the second aspect of team sports I want to look at is called subsidiarity, which is that's higher powers shouldn't overly interfere with lower powers. And I want to talk about this in terms of coaching, because coaching is so key in team sports. In an appropriate coach-athlete relationship, there should be freedom given by the coach to take a day off if you need it, or freedom to train harder if you want to, or to take it easier if needed, and the freedom to make your own goals. But the athlete needs to reciprocate with trust in the coach, that the higher power, the coach, should be able to step in for the good of the team, be able to call plays, make workouts, and do the things that he or she needs to be doing, or there would be mass chaos and fighting on the team. And so it's that balance of direction with freedom that each coach needs to figure out themselves, which is also the struggle, not the struggle, but the constant flux of us in society, both the context of within the church and within different governing structures in our country and in the world, to be able to balance that freedom of direction. Maybe we can look at good coaches to help us to guide us on that. So, the third aspect of team that we can gain from teams is unity within the church. Paul not only talks about athletes, like we mentioned at the beginning, as working for the imperishable crown or the perishable crown, but he also loves talking about the body of Christ. So sports teams are an analogous way to describe the Christian people. Good sports teams don't function without all of their parts, just as the body of Christ does not function well without all of its parts working correctly. And that everybody has different roles. So, a soccer team, the goalie doesn't play midfield, and the defense person doesn't play forward. It doesn't work like that. All of us have our specific roles within the context of the church to be able to bring the kingdom here on earth, and to be able to live the Christian life here on earth well, as God intends. And we're all of us are on the same team, working towards the goal of heaven, as we just described. And as when we're united, doing the roles that we've been called to, this just as teammates do their specific things that they're supposed to be doing on their team, the body of Christ will only function better. To be able to balance our freedom within the context of our obedience within the church, and to be able to recognize the common good with being united with all of those in the body of Christ. Awesome. So, if you don't remember anything from this talk, you can sit down and watch some sports and remember that you should be drawing some lessons from this. So, next time you're watching sports on TV, or if you're practicing sport yourself, I hope that maybe you'll be able to think a little bit about what you're learning from the activity of the sport or from what you're seeing in front of you, of how that can make you a better Christian. And you can probably draw way more analogies than I've drawn here, but I hope this is just a beginning of you being able to draw insights from something that we participate in all of the time, either vicariously or by ourselves. So I hope that helps you out a little bit, and that helps everybody be persevering, strong, focused, and goal-oriented Christian athletes. So, before I end formally, I'm going to describe what I have on my table over here, so people know what's going on over there. My table happens to be in the middle of the whole thing. Thank you. So there you go. So, anyway, you aren't, I live in West Humboldt Park, and we work with the neighborhood there. We feed about 700 families a month and have about 900 kids in after-school programming and evening programming to help keep at-risk kids off the streets and engaged in positive activities. And we also have senior citizens programming and family programming and tons of stuff. And most importantly, we're a prayer presence in a community that needs a lot of prayer, especially right now. Anyway, we have a marathon team that helps support our work. So I am out of entries for the Bank of America Chicago Marathon this year, but I will have guaranteed entries to the 2015 Chicago Marathon, which if anybody's has tried to register is kind of clutched at this point. So if you want to join our team, you can sign up, you can talk to me, you can take a flyer, and you can contact me next year when registration opens or anything like that. We also have a half marathon team. We're running the Oak Brook Half Marathon this September 1st. So people, if you still want to sign up, you can still sign up for this year's race. But you can also put your name on the list if you want to run next year. It's always on Labor Day. The race is always on Labor Day. And you can talk to me more about that. And then I also have back there information about our community, if anybody's interested in looking up information about our community, and contact information about us. And I also have a sign-up form. A lot of you have been to our monthly mobile food pantries. Lots of people have been, I think lots of people have been. So, yeah. So, I have a sign-up list back there for an email list that I run for after those every single month. We have adoration and then lunch for young adults. And we would love to have anybody here join our little group. It's super informal. So, please sign up on the email list, and I will send you an email reminder when it's happening. So you can just sign up there. No pressure to call me even if you sign up for the email list or anything. And last thing I have over there is these brochures. Ironically, this used to be called the Nun Run, but it's no longer called the Nun Run. But now it's called Chicago's Got Sisters, and pretty much what it is. So what it is it's an opportunity for young women to travel around different religious communities in the Archdiocese of Chicago. If anybody's interested to learn more about what sisters do in their day-to-day life, how sisters pray and how sisters do what they do, this is a really good introduction to religious life in general. If anyone's interested in doing that, this one's in October, but then if you can't make that one, there's additional dates listed on the back. That's what I got. Thank you, Caroline.
It's really neat. I'm sure most of you group athletes too. You just don't think about the things that you take from the basketball court or the tennis court or whatever and apply them to your Christian life. So it's really neat to see that integration within, to cross your faith and then across your life as well. For those of you, I know that I've seen many of you early days of mission. If you're not familiar with it, please talk to me, talk to Sister Stephanie, talk to somebody. It's an absolutely just incredible outlet. It'll make you very proud to be a Catholic. Not like the sinful kind of pride, but really joyful. Because they do absolutely incredible work. It's really what the rubber meets the road in terms of our faith, serving those in need. We will, before we take brief permission, a couple of announcements. We do have Q&A cards, as I said, up here. So come up, we've got paper and pens for you. And then we'll sort through those during the intermission and then bring Sister Stephanie back up to address those. We have it's Christmas, guys, Christmas season, Christmas in July. There's a Christmas tree in the back corner of the room that supports the St. Clair Academy in Umoja, Kenya. It's a primary school that has right around 100 students that otherwise would not have access to education. So the school's in its very infant stages of development, and obviously your generosity is going to have a tremendous impact. So we thank you very much for that. Cleanup crew, please meet over to the side of the hallway by the tree to see Tim and Julia. And lastly is Tim around. Where's Tim? Tim Boyski, our hospitality chair, is going to come up and let you guys know about a couple of other events we have coming up. If you've been here the last couple of weeks, you know I've been talking about the anchors. Which anchor do you think I'll talk about tonight? Talk about athletics, teams. Yell it out. Belong. Thank you. So indulge me for a minute. I actually want to get a little bit out of
it's theological or not. So firstly, I like stealing from homilies. And I was warned that I thought there might be a little much U of I love tonight. I'm a Golden Gopher. So, it's the Big Ten 10K race this Saturday.
Yeah.
And I want an excuse to wear my hockey jersey. So, I'm stealing from Father Peter's homily, and after service day, he wore his Blackhawks jersey, so I don't care. I'm a Golden Gopher. I just want to make it known. No neighbors, they're all other people here. So, the anchors are pray, serve, give, learn, and belong. So, what all that does, we talk about belong in terms of, hopefully you feel that this is a place where you can find a parish community you belong to. But most importantly, the purpose of that is so you can, I believe you said, our main goal is conformity to Christ. So in this parish community, you find ways through prayer, through service, through giving, through learning, that you truly can feel that you belong to this community. Or whatever parish you're a member of, you belong to that community. So you truly can feel like you can grow closer to Christ and allow your life to belong to Him. That's the purpose of the belong anchor in my book. So a few ways that we try to do that here through Clement, and I'll start with saying Theology on Tap, wine and cheese happy hour. Beer is a great evangelization tool. So wine and cheese is the second Sunday of every month after the 7 p.m. Mass. During the winter months, it's down here. During the summer months, when it's nice out, we'll be outside. So that'll be August 15th, 13th-ish. It's that second Sunday in August anyway. Fourth Sunday of the month, we do a happy over at Brew and Tap. So just meet people out in front of the plaza and we'll walk over together. Just informal, get together for half hour, however long you want to be there. But it's a growing community, you meet other people, so you can feel like you can get involved in other activities here. Also, looking forward, the winter retreat is a great way for a lot of people to get grow closer in this community. So that's a long way away, but it fills up quickly. So that's something to be interested in. Keep your eyes on it. Registration is usually in January, I believe. So just keep your eyes on that if you're interested in it. And then this summer, there are a couple of particular activities. So every Saturday on Fullerton Avenue Beach, a group of 20-ish folks gets together and plays volleyball. It's just a pickup game, all skill levels, trust me. And so we've got the Vatican flag and the American flag flying, so you know that it's a church. So Carl, if you wouldn't mind standing up. So Carl's the main organizer here, so if you want to talk to anyone in particular, Carl's the go-to. And then the second one is something new that we started very soon. In fact, next Thursday will be a running club. We've heard a lot of interest in that. So Megan, where did you go? Megan done. Get in here so people can see it. So Megan will be organizing. So next Thursday night, a week from Thursday, at 7 p.m., meet in front of the church, and that'll be the first time. So it'll be a bit of a trial run, but give it a try. That was not meant to be a program. Also, another idea I stole from Father Peter is good news. Check your email. You'll get that if you were here last week. If you are interested in being put on the volleyball email list or the running club email list, and you register tonight, you should have received an email. It says it's from me, but it's from the young adult community. So you can just sign up directly there to be put on those particular lists. So like when the volleyball was canceled last week, you get that information. Don't show up looking for people. So if you want to be on those lists in particular, respond to that email, follow through with it. Easiest way to get involved. And then the last one, in terms of belonging to a parish community, regardless if you're a Clement parishioner or St. Mary of the Angels, St. John Cantus, I don't care. Seriously look at, are you registered as a parishioner? Have you made it official, as Father Manny said my first month here, have you made it official with your parish that you're in a relationship with it? I said, I don't care what parish you are. Make it official, say, yes, I belong to you as a parish, you are important to me. You can register online as Clement, it's pretty easy to find, otherwise feel free to talk to me, talk to Christina, talk to Father Ken, Father Peter. We can help you figure that out. But really it is important. I know a lot of us are in transition, hesitant to register, hesitant to make a commitment. It's important for the parish to know that you care. So register with us at Clement, Mary Angels, Alphonsus, wherever it may be. And then the final thing is, so as you're checking out the OLA information, immediately behind it, there's info tables on all of the parish anchors and the associated activities with the young adult community. And you can also sign up for the other activities there if you're interested in prayer activities, service activities, and so on and so forth, such as the choir. You go to an RCI sponsor, If you want to get involved in service activities, you can check out that info there. Taking up your time. I think, 10-minute break this time? We'll say 10 minutes, enjoy a little bit more food, more drink, and come back with any questions here if you want.
Questions and sheets up here.
Thanks. So evidently I'm not a very intimidating or commanding presence. Thank you for being quiet. Alright, so we got a couple of questions we're going through here. First question. Can you give any recommendations on seriously training for the spiritual life? How can I grow from an amateur to a professional?
Well, first of all, there's no one answer to this question, because if I knew the answer, I don't know what I'm doing. But this would be like the key to heaven. It'd be interesting. But anyway, taking your prayer life seriously and taking the sacraments very seriously is like the most as the central parts of your life. I think would be it's like a serious training plan. Like you need to develop a plan for growing in your prayer life and growing in your maybe taking a big step like going to daily mass if you don't already go to daily mass, going to confession more often on a regular basis every week or two. Maybe take it to that professional athlete level. I don't know. It depends on every person. And of course, some people are that's not where they're at, which is totally fine. If you're ready to the next step towards becoming a professional spiritual athlete, you need to pray 10 minutes today. Obviously, everyone's got to start somewhere to be able to take that next best step. So it depends on every person, but the center should be prayer and sacraments. Yeah.
Just take this.
Yeah, that's what I like messing around with it up there.
All right. How did athletics possibly help with your discernment? What parallels did and can you draw from that?
Very cool. Well, it was like I mentioned when I was telling my little story at the beginning, that athletics probably more harmed my discernment than helped it until I was able to put running in the place that it was supposed to be. And when I recognized kind of after that came to that point where I told the Lord that, hey, if you want me to give up running, I will give up running. When he brought me to that point, then I was able to really take the next responsible step to see where running should actually fit in my life as a religious sister. And that's when I really started making good, sound decisions I thought about where athletics should fit in my life. But drawing more parallels from my life, that was the explanation, right? I guess my discernment was very fast, and in that I was very focused I was like, all right, I'm supposed to become a sister, so I'm going to go visit communities now, and I'm just going to keep visiting communities, essentially, at a relatively regular, non-stop basis until I figure out what community I'm supposed to join. I kind of took that training perspective on my discernment, and that I was I was in training to, this was what I was supposed to do, and I was supposed to be figuring out how this was supposed to work in my life with a life of prayer and discussion with God in the process.
Can you give any tips on praying while distance running, and how do you do both effectively?
Very good. This is a very good question. If anybody knows me, which a lot of people do out here, I have a lot of energy. And sometimes too much energy for my own good. So sometimes it's very difficult for me to pray while sitting down. And so I'm able to, sometimes I do not, my prayer while sitting down is not sacrifice, I still do that. But I think that I gain a lot while praying while I'm running, because I'm able to kind of push a lot of that energy out, and then I'm able to kind of come to a sense of peace while I'm running. And I'm able to kind of be able to focus better because I'm not as distracted, because a lot of my energy is dissipated into the actual physical movement. So I guess the tips for praying while distance running is do it, one. Take advantage. We have some, you guys are really close to the Lake Park path. If you run at a time, the the best time, like really early, really late-ish, really late in the morning or later in the evening when it's like pretty quiet. There's not 5,000 people out there. I found you can kind of, there's a sense of, the sense of beauty and a sense that God is really there while you're running, and to take advantage of that. And some people always ask, like, do you pray the rosary while you're running, or do you do this sort of thing? Sometimes I do, and that's also a way, I find a good way to, like, center my mind while I'm running if I'm going to try to pray when I'm running, to be able to have something specifically kind of set out there to pray. Yeah, and so, I guess that's a good way to go. How to end that, don't know.
That's not funny. How do you know if you're taking your love of sports too far? If you're a season ticket holder and you go to every game, home and away, you read every article, you watch every game on TV, at what point do you cross the line?
That's a very good question. And some people know Father Bob out there. So my superior, he really, really, really likes Notre Dame football. Like, this is kind of, it's always like, because I have this running thing, just kind of like my own thing, and he's got this like football thing, so it's kind of like this whole like how we get analysis in our lives here. So anyway, it's a very good question. I think that honestly, the answer that I think would be rational is that is your love of your team affecting your prayer life, and is your love of your team affecting your ability to go to Mass on Sunday? Like, think of this, if you start to value going to the game more than going to Mass on Sunday, then maybe we should reevaluate where you're at. And so, to be able to like make, kind of make your priorities in your faith life, make them clear and even write them down, and then be able to compare that to how you prioritize the role of your team in your life.
And lastly, how do you compare physical and spiritual fatigue or burnout? And what are some ways we can guard against it or pull ourselves out of it?
Also, very good question. So burnout is an interesting, it's difficult to define, and it's different for everybody, and it's different for different aspects of your life, both different physically through a sport or different, and spiritual burnout's a difficult thing to define. I'm not sure exactly. I haven't experienced many people who have had spiritual burnout, so it's hard for me to totally speak about that. But I guess to guard against pushing too hard, too fast applies to both. Both for, so if your prayer life is you don't pray that much and you're working on developing a life of prayer, or working on certain sins that you really struggle with, and if you're taking tangible steps to work on those sins, that you shouldn't expect immediate perfection. Obviously, and that we need, just like an athlete can't expect to go from running a 5K, 25 minutes to a 5K in 16 minutes in a year. That's not going to happen. To be able to set, kind of going back to the goal setting I was saying, be able to set realistic goals so you don't get discouraged and end up just quitting the whole thing, either your prayer life or your whatever sport you're in.
Alrighty, so to wrap up the night, please stick with me till the end. Last week things got a little crazy. Next week, Professor Mary Dealey will be here to speak about the Catholic lens, what we believe and why it's important. Please join us same place, same time, although hopefully outside. If you enjoyed your time tonight, please invite your friends. Maybe take with somebody who wouldn't normally come to these events, especially alone, without prompting. Facebook invites only go so far. We need you guys to kind of take that last step and make it personal, and make it meaningful to people who maybe you think would benefit from something like this. After tonight, after we get the basement cleaned up, we are all going to be, well, many of us will get into the Burrow Tap this around the corner. You guys are all invited to come and join. I don't know if Sis will be joining. Maybe. Maybe. give them money, they give you alcohol. So and finally, just please throw away any trash that you guys have accumulated. I'll pick up my note cards. Like I said, trash on the